Assalamu alaikum and welcome back, where I'm talking with our colleagues and guests, PC Amjad Ditta from West Yorkshire Police and Saira Khan, who manages the Pavilion Cafe but has also just become a special constable for West Yorkshire Police, and we're talking about recruitment, underrepresentation of BME, Muslim people as well within the service, and the experience of Muslims within West Yorkshire Police.
Yeah,
would that be fair to say?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so earlier we were talking about you've been going out, you do some specific seminars with different groups to, further enhance their awareness and understanding of what may be expected of them.
Yes.
And one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what sort of key successes have you had, and who would you say is one of the most challenged or challenging groups that you're not getting through to?
Yeah, sure. It's a valid point, is that, because the stage of the process is broken down into various stages. But my personal experience is we have a big failure rate at the application stage. Well, that's generally broken down into the Asian females when it comes to the application form. So what are we doing? I'm thinking, why is there such a difference? Because in all walks of life, females generally do a lot better than males in all walks of life. So why in the police recruitment process are we having a big failure at this stage? So what we've done to combat that is we have specific seminars designed for underrepresented females to come, and we just go through the application form. So we don't give them the answers. What we look at things is spelling and grammar, how to structure it, have a method, make sure it flows. Give us some examples. I'll give you an example. I had a Muslim female who said, "I'd love to apply, Amjad, but I don't have a job and I'm just a housewife." And I said, "Okay then. So what makes you think you can't apply? What am I going to put in my example when it asks me, what do you do for timekeeping or punctuality?" I said, "Well, okay then, explain to me what your daily tasks are." So she said, "I put the kids to bed at a certain time, I cook the food at a certain time, I make sure I wake up early because I need to get to school, and then I clean the house and I do this, this and this." So I said, "Okay, let's go back and start from the beginning. So you are punctual and you are keeping time, because if you didn't, there would be a knock-on effect for your kids. They won't go to school on time. If you didn't cook on time, then again it would have effect time. If you didn't buy the food on time, they would have this." And the clogs kept turning and you could see the penny dropping. And not only did she help with the application form, it built her confidence. I thought, I'm not just a housewife and people are going to judge me. In fact, I am me, and I have got these qualities, and I want to show these qualities throughout the process. And it's amazing to see where they start off and where they finish. It's like a different person. The confidence keeps going up, which is great. I think there's no better feeling for me apart from seeing the candidate, helping them. If someone says halfway through, "Amjad, thanks for your help, but it's not for me," you still see the confidence they've got, the skills for life that they've gained in that short space of time, which they take through the rest of their life. And you can see the families coming back and saying, "It's a different person. Wow, they're really outgoing, really bubbly, really chatty. They used to be really reserved." And you can see the satisfaction that runs through the family just over one candidate. So I think that's the biggest key for me, is getting everyone involved, but targeting the seminars for specific needs. And that's what we do with obviously the recruitment side.
And it's really good that you look at it in that way, and you segment your cohorts each time. So in terms of retention, so once people have been through the application process, they've started the training, what would you say the success rate is now of BME officers, going from training to what's the word?
Yeah, it's obviously operational street level.
Yeah, exactly, to basically starting the job.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So if you can imagine, we've been running at a force around 6%. So in the last 6 months I've been in this job, we're already up to about 9%.
Okay, so that's really good for 6 months.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. We've been running at 6% for 25 years.
Yeah.
So either it tells me two things. Whatever we were doing in the past was wrong, or we were doing it for the sake of doing it, or now we're doing something different, like targeting the seminars for specific failures, and also doing it on a weekend, doing it on an evening, going out to the community rather than coming to you. So it's about making these changes. Everyone brings fresh ideas, and my ideas, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're great, but they've come from the community. So I haven't come up with this idea and say, "This is what we're going to do. If you don't like it, don't turn up." It's from the community. Amjad,
you've engaged appropriately with them. And
they've asked us, saying, "Amjad, do you mind doing it in Bradford City Centre on this day, because we've got a good turnout, or we've got a Diwali event. Do you fancy coming and doing an input there and speech about recruitment?" "Yeah, I'll come," because it suits and it hits the wider audience. So that's what it's about. It's about listening to the community. I personally find that's the biggest key of success I've found in the last 6 months.
Fantastic. And and I hope you carry on. There's another area that I just wanted to pick up with you a little bit. I know we talked about women, Asian women in the recruitment process, and you've talked about how you mitigate that. But personally, I've not seen any police officers with wearing hijabs. And the reason I'm raising this is it's become such a topical issue. You know, for many people, it's absolutely my right to choose to wear it, as it is to any woman's. Yeah. But sometimes people are self-limiting, so you know they can stop themselves applying for a job in a certain organisation because they think it might be a challenge. How does the force deal with women in hijab?
Yeah, sure. It's a really critical point. You know, there is an option of wearing the hijab, obviously based on the health and safety risks, because you're dealing with confrontation situations when you're on the front line. Back office roles, absolutely not a problem. You know, I've seen lots of candidates, a lot of employees who wear the hijab, you know, and rightly so. However, what I did find out in the last 6 months was I have police officer friends, colleagues, female Muslim officers who wear the hijab all day at home. But when they come to work, they remove it. And I was always under the impression it was because of the fear of what the community would say. But in fact, it wasn't. It was a fear of what the officers would say, how would they look at them. Yeah, which really threw me back, really, because I wasn't expecting that. I always thought we would be seen as such as an accommodated employer and very inclusive, that we'd be able to understand that. But the feedback I've had is it's not because of the public, it's what the officers might say. So we've said to them, you know, there is these options. If it fits and it can be part of the health and safety is past that, feel free to wear it. You know, no one's going to judge you. You know, if people don't judge you, well, that's them. They're low morale. They're obviously shallow people. However, it's part of what you are. We're representing the community. If that's who you are, part of the community, then you should be able to come to work and represent who you are as a person, not an act. I don't want people coming who are an act or a facade or someone who wants to portray an image. We want you to come through and shine and show your personal skills. Hence why the recruitment process is so hard. It's designed to get the best out of you at each stage, because we want you, not anyone can come and practice a script and talk about it. We want to see that person shine through. So that's exactly, going back to the hijab point, it is an option and it's something as a force we've always accommodated. However, in the last, I think my seminar, 6 months I've been running it, I've had 3 colleagues, Muslim, who are actually starting to force, who still wear the hijab. So you'll see a representation in the community now, which is good.
Yeah.
And I think all that's about is they have that support network there. They have someone to turn to and say, in fact, Amjad, can I do this? I won't ask John, because John won't understand the culture. He won't understand the reasons why I'm doing it. But you're from this line of field, and you've got family and friendly who do it. So you'll be able to understand me better, and maybe you can speak to the superior and say, this is why they're doing it. Because they've got enough on the plate going through the recruitment process, because it can be very challenging, then think, I need to fight my corner to keep my hijab on. In fact, this is why Amjad's here. Why don't we ask him for his views and see what he says? That's all it's about.
Excellent. So in terms of obviously Muslim women and the hijab, it could be for some women one barrier, and the important thing to recognise is not all Muslim women wear a hijab. If they choose not to, that's absolutely perfectly fine. It's their choice. So it's not about saying it's changing everything just for one type of people. But the other thing is, I can imagine as families, as you know, parents, concerns about particularly where people would consider themselves as more practicing.
Yes.
You know, how do they go about you mentioned fasting before.
Yep.
How does the service accommodate fasting? How does it accommodate prayers? You know, or having, you know, can people organise it so they can go out to Jummah sometimes? You know, how have you found that, and how does the service cope?
No, again, that's a very valid point. In my days as a patrol constable in Halifax, what most stations have now is prayer rooms. So they have dedicated prayer rooms, so officers can go and do prayers there. However, you've got to remember is in operational 24/7 police officer role. So if a job comes in and you're at an immediate, for example, emergency, and you don't get to pray, well, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. You know, as soon as practicable afterwards, they will make reasonable adjustments for you to say, you need to go to the mosque and pray, or the prayer room, feel free to do so. We definitely have that in place, because being on firearms now, I tend to work all around West Yorkshire. So one day I might go to Bradford to do prayers, next day I might go to Leeds, third day I might go to mosque and do it there. So it just depends on the role and the requirements. If it's a quiet day and you can do fit only prayers in at mosque, at work whilst in uniform, they will accommodate that. You've got to remember, we've got over 4,000 officers, and we cannot justify saying, oh, you can't go to prayers, because there's so many other officers who can go to the job as well. So, you know, we have that flexibility, and they will make reasonable adjustments, and rightly so. It's not just for Muslim officers, it's for every creed out there. You know, every religion people who come through, if they've got any requirements, they will reasonably try and adjust and make adjustments for them.
And equally in return, I suppose the officers have to be reasonable in their requests as well. So therefore, you know, like you say, if you're dealing with an emergency, it's life and limb. It's a really responsible position. But we do have, you know, there's the provision in the religion to make up your prayers afterwards, and ultimately, you know, protection of life is paramount anyway in our religion, so you'd have to do that element of it first.
You've got to remember, what is the reason people are asking for this dispensation? Is it because they just want a couple of hours off, or is it because, you know, they are practicing? Because if they're practicing, you've answered your own question, it makes reasonable adjustments to say you can do it as soon as practicable after, because you're dealing with a life and death emergency. So, I mean, if anyone's from any other religion who have got these issues, the only way we'll find out about them is if they tell us. If the force don't know about it, and because they don't know everything, you know, the first ones to put their hand up and say, we don't know about all the religions, we don't know about all the cultures, that's the only way we're going to find out, is if they come and share it with us. And that's what
and creating that environment where you feel comfortable to say, actually, I need a reasonable adjustment. And that's the same, like you say, for all the different groups and for people with disabilities, you know, because there's provisions for those. And people should be able to express themselves and then have a mature conversation about what is reasonable. Because we've had issues, I know, within the Muslim community in the past where people are jumping up and down, and, you know, and actually when you're looking at it as a Muslim, you're thinking, actually that wasn't necessary. There's other ways you could have coped with that. You know, as a community, you didn't need to make such a hoo-ha, because the religion, we have provisions in it where it's not supposed to be a burden on us. So then why do we make it burdensome sometimes? Is one of the challenges I've found.
Yeah, and it's a valid point. I mean, I personally, every time something like this happens, not in the media, I mean just in general, because good news never sells. It's always bad news. I always think, are we kicking up a fuss over cultural reason, or is it religious reasons? Because there's two distinct differences there. You know, we can't pick and choose when it suits us. People do, people will, and people always will do. However, you've got to be very clear on what the point you're trying to get across, because you're representing the community. So is that the image you want to reflect the community? Because like you said earlier on the show, the police officers have got this image from a certain incident they've dealt with from that community. If they've dealt with a car full of young Asian lads smoking drugs, for example, for some of them who have never experienced that, will think that's what all Asian kids do, clearly, because they've never had any other exposure, any other incident where they've dealt with that. Because you can remember, some of these officers may come from a privileged middle-class background, you know, and this is the first time they've been exposed to such an environment that they don't even know how to react. So there's a lot of things going on here, and it's about educating these officers. Me myself, I'm still learning on the job 11 years later. It can never be a complete officer. So again, going back to your point, yeah, you've got to remember what the ultimate aim is. What are we trying to portray?
I have a colleague who once I was saying to him, I said, I don't know when I speak in the meetings and the areas that I speak in, and my role's quite a strategic role, so I do a lot of partnership working. And I say, I don't know what people are reacting to, whether they're reacting to my hijab, whether they're reacting to my ethnicity or to my shortness or whatever it is. But you know, in that, when you have something like 30 seconds to make a first impression, it's already loaded against me. And it was really interesting because he was saying, well, to be fair, it could be all of those things, Amria. It could be that you're a woman, or it could be that you're an Asian woman, a Muslim woman, or like I say, I wear my religion on my head. Literally, it's very obvious. But in your case, I think it's usually as soon as you open your mouth and start talking, you just sort of floor people. And I'm saying the accent, and it's some of that the accent, but some of it is actually, then I start talking about subjects in a way they weren't expecting. So it's a bit of, partly there is a discrimination element there because they weren't expecting me to speaking with authority on the subject matters that I'm speaking, which is what I'm supposed to do, but that's not necessarily what they were expecting. So therefore, whilst they're quickly catching up and thinking, no, she's not the secretary, no, she's not the this, you know, and yes, she is the right person to be speaking to, there is a little bit of a delay. I mean, to be fair, 99.99% of the time, I've not had any issues. Most people I come across are really reasonable. But there is that sometimes there is a bit of a niggle in the background where you're just going, I can't get through to you. I don't know what's the barrier, and sometimes it's quite invisible.
And do you know what? That's a massive point I've picked up in the community. And exactly that. And so what have we done to combat that? We've done a panel of interviewers have been trained on unconscious biases. Unconscious biases are there because they're unconscious. So when someone walks through the door and they're wearing a tracksuit, or they're wearing a hijab, for example, we automatically think what experience we've had or what have we heard about them. Don't make him believe them. Don't make him a bad person, But it depends, because unconscious biases, first 20 seconds, they've made their mind up. So we have interview panels now that reflect the community who have all been trained for unconscious biases. It won't eliminate it, however, they're aware of it, that they will feel like this when people come through. Don't mean to make you believe it, however, be aware you do have these, and everyone has them because we are part of the community. So it's a very, very important, that point you make there. And they came from the community that did, saying, Amjad, you want to reflect the community, but all your panel of interviewers are all heterosexual white males. Clearly they don't know what culture I come from because they've not experienced it. How about you get a panel of interviewers who reflect all the communities out there? And we thought, again, it's a valid point.
Absolutely.
So now we've trained them and they do the interviewing, and it's so much better.
I'm just wanting to speak to you, Sarah, for a moment there. You said earlier that you have a really diverse team at the Pavilion Cafe.
Yeah.
Now, how did you, in your recruitment process, ensure that you got a good mix of people who are, you know, representative of the district a little bit? On a smaller scale, I appreciate you don't have 4,000 staff, you know, so.
I think for me, because I lived away in London for 15 years, so my experience of living away and moving from Bradford and then coming back helped me, because by moving away and going travelling, I got to meet people from lots of different nationalities and areas, backgrounds, and when I was working there, a lot of the things that we did for the company that I worked for was around diversity and stuff. So when I moved back to Bradford, I wanted to still have the same way of doing things that I'd been doing down in London. So when I did first move back, I did think, what's it going to be like in the Asian community for me, because I'd lived away for a while. And I've had racism from Asian males whilst I've been at the cafe, which hasn't been very nice, but I think that's just because they haven't expected somebody of my stature to be in charge or be the owner or the manager of the cafe.
It's a form of sexism.
Yeah, but then that's just one of those instances where I think, you don't know me, you don't know the people that work here, so the people that work here all deserve respect, and it's not about the colour of your skin or what you're wearing or what you look like. A person's a person, and if you treat somebody with respect, you'll get that respect back. And it's about being kind and caring, and all the things, I suppose, that my dad taught me. I try to do them every day, and by having a diverse team, we're serving diverse customers, so they all feel included within that too.
And valued, yeah. I know a few years ago I used to run a women's centre, and our team was really diverse, and it was, you know, an Asian women's centre, but deliberately in the recruitment processes we kept it quite open, because although it was a safe space for people to, you know, use as a bit of a springboard, and to gain some of the confidence and the skills to which to go and confidently engage with mainstream society, because that was always our aim. It was never to create a bubble and keep people there. It was to give them the skill set and the confidence to go and become teachers, to go and, you know, into other jobs. And one of the elements of that was how we introduce people from different backgrounds to the nursery. We used to run a nursery, but to also the women's groups as well. And it was a really important part that our team was really mixed. And I remember I used to get told off by another women's centre that the centre wasn't exclusively female. And I refused to do that, because I was like, we need to all have confidence to interact with different sexes, from different backgrounds, from different nationalities, ethnicities, religions, from, you know, different sexual orientations. It's really important we see ourselves as human beings as part of society, and therefore we should learn to interact with it early on. And this is one of my things about when people try to put people in boxes. They're just really not very helpful, because we are more than our boxes. And I know at work I'll pipe up and say something and people say, oh, and you can see the surprise, because again there was a box that was created that demure looking Muslim women don't do that. In my case, it's sort of like science fantasy novels and stuff, you know. It's you know, it's the unexpected. It's like, really, you'd read 600 pages of that, and I was like, yeah, that's what I do. That's how I grew up. That's what I did. And it's just those quite, you know, tiny little nudges of things where you think it doesn't take a lot for people to make you feel welcome. Actually, it's just kind of being open and, like you say, respectful.
Yeah, and talking, because the team's quite diverse, and there's a wide age range in the team, and we've got a couple of people working there that aren't heterosexual. That helps too, because by speaking with each other, the team get to experience working with people that maybe they would not normally meet, and learning about what life is for like them on a daily basis, and hopefully that helps them change their views if they've had any views that have been negative or they haven't been sure about things. And the same for them, working with me as an Asian female, their view of what they would have thought an Asian female working for an Asian female would have been like. So I've surprised a lot of my team in the way that they think that some of my views might have been, or what they might have thought working for an Asian person. And I think that that's good.
Yeah,
because it's making a difference.
Yeah, when I was working in Keighley at the Women's Centre, we had a fantastic time, and most of us are still in touch, and that was including people from, like I said, different backgrounds, and you know, really long-lasting friendships have formed over that time as well. So sometimes, like we say, just give each other a chance.
Yeah.
It does make a difference. One of my closest friends is, well, she describes herself as a lapsed Irish Catholic, and she is one of my closest friends at the moment, you know, and has been for a long time now. So this thing about Muslims, I think sometimes there is a perception that we don't help ourselves, you know, so we hold back a little bit, and maybe it's protection, it's because we want to feel safer, or maybe it's because we have our own prejudices and biases. So I don't know if you've come across that in your recruits. How do you get them to overcome their expectations? So in a way, if you expect racism, if you expect sexism, if you think that all exists, then what does that do to your sort of psychology when you're trying to set off on a new venture? Yeah,
and that's exactly what we found out excuse me, when I first started off, and it became very clear that I needed to change my attack, as it were, if you can name it that. Now the seminars are very informal. Honestly, I don't know if this is the correct word, but it's about literally befriending people. People come there, a lot of, especially Asian females, who just want to talk to someone and talk about what's going on in their life. Maybe, you know, it may be domestic violence, it may be just some issues, it may be some good things. They just want to talk about someone to listen to them, and then you talk about recruitment. I've had seminars where I've listened for an hour or so before I've said anything, and then started to speak about what the issues could be, and it built that relationship. You know, and now I get phone calls, people ringing me up saying, Amjad, my MOT's out of date, how do I go and get it done? Nothing to do with recruitment, but because we've got that
You've
bond.
become the one-stop shop now for everything.
Can't do enough for a good cause.
Fantastic. Unfortunately, our time is nearly over, so we've only got a couple of minutes left. So in terms of getting in touch with you, not about the MOT, but about recruitment or any other questions, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if anyone's interested in either recruitment or any general issues regarding police or obviously staff roles, feel free to contact me on social media, on Facebook, PC Amjad, again on Twitter, Amjad, and obviously you can send the email as well. But any issues, any questions, any myths, any barriers, maybe not from West Yorkshire, but interested in about police forces around the country, feel free to get in contact with me. And I also do a lot of recruitment events at mosques, seminars, events. If you need me to come down, please get in contact, and I'd love to oblige. Thank you.
And I can actually vouch for your response rate. That's how we sort of interacted on social media first. So if you are interested in talking to Amjad, he will definitely reply. He certainly did to me. And what about you, Saira? If people want to ask you any questions or would like to connect with you via social media, do you have an account that would be?
Yeah, we've got the Pavilion Cafe BD account, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Or you can just pop into the cafe for a coffee, and I'm more than happy to have a chat. And hopefully more young Asian females will be encouraged to join the police or just follow their dreams even, and just believe that you can do anything. And
for the meantime, is this going to stay your sort of part-time role, or are you thinking at some point you may become a police officer full-time?
I'm going to see how it goes with running the business. It's the start of a new journey and see where it takes me.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. So it's been a real pleasure talking to you both. Thank you so much for your frank and open discussion. I've really welcomed that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure our viewers have as well. And I think the more we can talk openly about these challenging issues, racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, you know, in a mature way, can only be good for society. And Saira, you know, you are clearly a little powerhouse, or a big powerhouse of a woman, in terms of, you know, just being the manager of the pavilion was enough, but now you're becoming a superhero and, you know, doing a bit for society in different ways as well. So all the best to you, whatever you decide. As you know, I do pop in and out, and I'm in the city centre quite a bit, but I shall see you there. But like I said, good luck. You've got the details of both of our guests to contact as appropriate, and inshallah I'll see you here next week, and you can find me on Twitter as well. I'm Ria Khatun. So thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum.